You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Bodwin.
Hey Rockstars, do you love burgers? Like, who doesn't love a great burger, right? So today I'm talking to two guys that have entertainment backgrounds, but now they're behind a super hot concept called Mooyah, and it's a burger joint. Burgers, fries, and shakes. Who doesn't love that? But what's really cool about Mooyah is on top of your, standard Angus beef burger, you can also get Keto, Paleo, vegan, low-cal, gluten-free, 100% fresh all the way, and they call it lifestyle burgers. I went to the website. It was making me super hungry. I think you know what I mean once we start talking to these guys. But on top of all of the COVID stuff that's been happening, we'll talk about what they've done to pivot and their best practices. We also talk about staff training, rewards programs, the foundation of their business, and of course their super hot franchise and what those franchise opportunities mean if you're looking for a franchise. So stay tuned to this episode. Super happy to bring it to you. And here we go. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Of course, these are conversations to build brands, rock profits, deliver amazing guest service experiences. Today, super excited. I have Mr. Ted Beeman as well as Tony Darden, and we're going to be talking all about a hot concept called Mooyah, burgers, fries, and shakes. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you.
Great, Roger. Thank you.
I appreciate having you. I love talking shop with operators, and you guys are doing some pretty exciting things. But of course, you're hitting the whole same challenges that the industry is hitting with COVID. Before we get into all of that, I understand, Ted, that you've got an entertainment background in addition to a hospitality background. Let's talk about that. And then I'm going to ask Tony all about his experience in hospitality, because I know that's pretty extensive. But we'll start with you, Ted. Tell us about what's your backstory?
Great. Thanks, Roger, for having us on. So I am currently working with two gentlemen. We're partners in a new firm called Agape Management Company. And we came together because we share some values, but we also share experiences in restaurant, hospitality, and the entertainment sectors. So specifically, I have been in the restaurant industry for years and years and years. I was with Metro Media Restaurant Group back in the 90s and early 2000s, which actually is where I met Tony. So we have a relationship going back that many years, even though neither one of us is old enough. So that's a little surprising. That could be true. And then from there, I helped establish some brands here in the Texas area. Boston's Gourmet Pizza, which was moving from Canada to the U.S. I was part of that development here. I was part of a group that was developing a barbecue restaurant and a fast casual barbecue restaurant here in Texas. And then about 3-4 years ago, I got more into the entertainment side, bringing a company called Kidzania from Mexico to the U.S. We were the franchisee for the entire United States. And that's where I met my two partners, Greg and Sean. And their experience is much more heavily in entertainment. Sean, as an example, was the VP of operations for Dave & Buster's for about 20 years. He ran about half the country for them. My partner, Greg, was with Jillian's back in the day and was CEO for GameWorks. And we all got together at Kidzania. And then as we were transitioning out of there and looking for what we wanted to do next, we felt like we had a team that had complementary skill sets, had really deep experiences in restaurants, hospitality, and entertainment. And we were looking for brands that we could partner with, that we felt great about the brand, its future, the leadership team, and how we could help it grow.
That's fantastic. I've always believed that the restaurant business is entertainment. It's showbiz. So clearly there's a crossover there. But I had to ask, based on what you said, is there any sort of an emphasis on that old, I don't know if it's old, but it's a concept called eatertainment. I think Rainforest Cafe comes to mind, Punch Bowl Social. Some of these companies flew high for a while, but then it was the same old, and people didn't go back. There was no real reason. There was no real focus on the service or the food. It was all about the crazy experience of walking in and dazzling the customer with the ambiance. But if you went once, it's like, what was the point of going again? You know what I mean? Some of these concepts have fallen by the wayside, but still there's an element of the entertainment that has has to combine with the hospitality, that has to combine with the quality of the product you're offering, that has to combine with the service of the staff and the training and all those things. Where do you feel on that? And then I want to get to Tony's introduction.
Well, many, many years ago, someone that I worked with told me that there's a difference between eating out and dining out. And that's a really critical difference. And dining out encompasses everything about the experience. The food, of course, has to be there, right? Because if you're a restaurant and the food's not good, nobody's ever going to come back.
Correct.
But it's the ambiance, it's the service, it's how I make you feel when you walk in the door. It's, that desire to come back. It's the connection to the community. That's one of the interesting things. As the world gets bigger, the world also gets smaller. And in this day and age, you really need to be connected to your local community. People want to see you at the soccer games and at the PTA meetings and those kinds of things. And so your local management, if you've got multiple sites, you really want to have them connected. And so those are the things that differentiate, in my mind, a great idea, a great concept potentially, from a great brand that has legs.
Thank you very much for answering that. Tony, let's bring you in right now because you certainly need no introduction. You've got a long, illustrious career in this business, lots of brands under that Darden name. In fact, when I was in graduate school in 1988, my crew, the people I hung with, my fellow students and friends, we all hung out at a Bennigan's outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And it was kind of our place. And It was always great service and it was always cool ambiance. And we loved the menu and it just felt like a cool place to go. That was many, many years ago, of course, but I have fond memories of hanging out at a Bennigan's. And that's just one of the brands.
Was that City Place?
Yeah, it was actually...
Or Framingham?
Yes, Framingham. Thank you. That was right close to Wellesley, Mass, where we went to Babson for our MBAs.
Yeah, very cool. Well, hopefully you had a great experience then.
We absolutely did.
Good.
So tell us, how did you first get into the hospitality business? How did you start all these brands? How did you rise to be such a huge persona in this business? I'm honored to be talking to you right now.
Oh, goodness. Well, thanks for having us. We appreciate the chance to obviously speak to the relationship that Ted and I have and the Agape Group have with Muya. I started as a server and a bartender back in Southern California. I started with Bennigan's and just caught the bug at that point and continued, had graduated college, had a communications degree, didn't really know what I wanted to do in life and just continued to get opportunities to move forward with Bennigan's. And ultimately, spent 13, 14 years there. And that's where I met Ted. Eventually, I moved to the Plano, Texas market, moved to Dallas, Fort Worth, and spent some time here. And, after my run at Bennigan's, I was with a concept called Cracker Barrel for a little bit. Again, was there for a few years, was in operations, and then spent a bulk of my last probably 12 to 15 years with a concept of Panera Bread, and really learned a lot outside of the operations piece with Panera, but really learned about off-premise and digital strategy and craveability of food and sustainability of food, and really just enjoyed so much of my time there. Got to learn from Ron Shake, who's the founder and CEO, for Panera for a long, long time, and then ultimately found my way in front of the folks that had purchased Muya. As you know, Muya was purchased by a private equity firm in 2017, the Gala Corporation, and I was connected with them, and through those meetings was offered the chance to lead Muya and jumped at it really because since I had been in the DFW market. And Muya started in 2007. I've been a fan and a consumer of Muya. My kids, my wife, we have loved Muya from day one, from the first restaurant that was in Plano, Texas. And so, for me, it was a great chance to partner with a brand I felt just had tremendous reason to exist within the better burger space. And so obviously jumped at it and have been here since April of 2019. And I've just enjoyed my time and really enjoyed the journey that we've come on with Muya because we really feel that we're at a really great spot right now.
Well, I got to tell you that I've always believed that a great restaurant website really brings the experience to life for someone if they've never even stepped foot in the location. And I was on your website, and I'll tell you, the burgers are making me hungry, but I just love the design of it and all the different things that you're doing. And it just engaged me and it pulled me in. And it's like, I literally just kept going and going and learning more and more about the brand. And that was a really powerful brand building, awareness building, compelling reason to visit a Muya if there's one close by or if you're traveling. So really good job with that. So let's talk about the brand itself, Muya, and what the history is and what it's really all about, what its reason for being is, what its competitive advantages are. Take us through, your philosophies, all that stuff. And I don't want to overwhelm you with the question, but just kind of give the audience an overview of Muya if they've never been to one. And then we're going to talk about some specifics about the brand.
Absolutely. Again, it was founded in 2007. It was really a place where folks could go in a casual environment, but at the same point, get a really elevated food experience. And, from our perspective, what differentiates Muya from other brands is we use certified Angus beef on our burgers. They're fresh. They're never frozen. We hand cut our French fries in-house. So we punch those fries in-house by hand. We bake our buns in-house. We don't get a lot of credit for that sometimes. We're really trying to talk about that, but we bake our buns in-house. And then we make these tremendous shakes that we only use real ice cream in the shake. So, from that perspective, it started as a casual kind of place where you could go and get an elevated food experience, and it's continued down that path. And when the brand was purchased from the private equity firm, it was purchased from the founder. And so, a lot of times what you get with founder-led organizations, you get a really great concept that maybe has some things that needed to be worked on to really stabilize it and prepare it for growth. And so that's what the team is in place now, is really to stabilize the brand, prepare it for the scalability that comes with growing across the organization. So things like, as I mentioned, the elevated food experience is tremendous, but, we've implemented a new prototype and design that we feel that evens out and really gives you the same esteem. Our food is very high esteem, but the experience you get, we feel that we're adding self-esteem to that experience with this new design that we have, which obviously Ted and team have been big fans of as well. But so a lot of things like that, preparing it for the ability to do off-premise. Obviously in the pandemic, everybody went off-premise in the pandemic, but we had done this prototype that had separate areas, separate entrance and exits for delivery drivers, to areas to put your to-go food, and really make it an ease of operations standpoint for folks that wanted their food takeout, that didn't want to necessarily come in and sit out in our restaurants. So again, reason to exist, great food that we feel much of the country is really, really going to love.
The pandemic has certainly been a playing field leveler, to say the least. And obviously, survival of the fittest has certainly taken its toll on this industry in a huge amount. But I would say that your concept was pretty well positioned pre-COVID and now still during the pandemic. And no one knows, what's in store in the future. But I'd really like to get a sense, and I know this audience is going to learn a lot from this conversation, about some of the best practices and how the business is operating and how it's pivoted and shifted. And, I know you've got digital menus and all that sort of thing, but the safety practices and the communication with your customers to maintain their confidence. I mean, all these things are important to a brand today to not just survive, but be a stronger brand in the future. Tell us about the concept and how it actually operates and what percentage is delivery and off-premise. And that's a big 30,000 feet view looking down on Muya, but we'd really love to hear it.
Well, it's certainly different now than it was pre-COVID, right? So as we went into the pandemic, number one, we had launched delivery across the entire system, and it got that across the finish line at the end of 2019. So, luckily or unluckily because of the pandemic, but we were in a position that if, to pivot to an off-premise model was something that we were prepared to do, not knowing what was coming, but knowing that delivery was an area that we needed to be, and we needed to continue to push our off-premise strategy and push our digital strategy. So as you look at it going into the pandemic, we were between 8 and 10% of our sales were delivery or off premise. Obviously, that got up to 100% during certain parts of the pandemic, and right now we're settling in, and we're still at 23 to 25% off premise. From a sales perspective, we've got a number of dining rooms open. We have about 65% of our system that have dining rooms open right now. Now, we don't know where that goes tomorrow, and as we move forward here the next couple of weeks,
keeps changing all the time.
It does. But again, overwhelmingly, the ability to offer takeout, to offer delivery, to do it through the app has proven very successful for us in the pandemic.
So let me ask you, are all the stores controlling their own delivery versus third-party delivery companies?
They all participate in third-party delivery companies.
I see. Okay, so
the pivot from that and what we've had is we are now doing delivery through our app, which significantly reduces the fees that our franchise owners would pay. And so obviously a big part of our strategy is to get folks into the app, which again, you sign up for our app, you become a loyalty member, you order delivery, you can do everything through the app. And so obviously that's a big part of our strategy.
Let's talk a little bit about company-owned stores versus franchise-operated stores. What is the percentage on that going on right now?
99.9% franchise. We have one company restaurant in Joliet, Illinois. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're a fully franchised brand, and really set ourselves up to be a huge support for our franchise owners, because obviously our franchise owners and partners are the lifeblood of this organization, and everything we do is in service of them, and everything we do is at a point of contribution to our franchise owners, because ultimately, if they're successful, then the brand is successful.
I can't speak for you, but I have to ask what qualifications you seek in a new franchisee in terms of experience they bring to the table, contribution to make this whole thing happen, and what support you offer them in terms of locations. Do they own the real estate? Are they leasing properties across the country? That sort of thing.
Certainly. Well, number one, you do not need to have restaurant experience to be a franchise owner with Muya. Now, that being said, I firmly believe that anybody who's going to be successful in the service industry or the hospitality industry has to have the hospitality gene, right? Meaning they need to enjoy serving others. And so that's something that we ferret out very early on. And there's got to be a strong business acumen. There's got to be an insatiable curiosity, and there's got to be the ability and the want to solve problems. Because in the restaurant industry, really, you're presented with different challenges and different problems every day, and I think that's what makes it exciting. So from that regard, you don't have to have certainly experience, but certainly you want to have those qualities. From a cost perspective, there are certainly franchise fees that we have, $40,000 for one, and then $25,000 for any additional units beyond that, and then we have royalties and ad fund, and from a build out perspective, it's really between $450,000 and $550,000 is where we land from a build out standpoint. So we're really proud of the economics, our box economics that we have, and we're proud of the profitability of our franchise owners.
And you've obviously built the economies of scale for, mass purchasing of everything, and everything goes through the franchise company, and there are obviously requirements on what you must purchase from the brand and all that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely. Part of growing across a large geography is having predictability. Predictability equals scalability, and part of predictability is having the same products and the same experience on the West Coast as in the Midwest and certainly in the Northeast and on the East Coast. So we pride ourselves on that, and that's something we talk about extensively, is ensuring that we deliver the same guest experience, same employee experience across a wide geography.
Consistency is everything, and so is timing. So I get the sense that you are very strong supporters of your franchisees, but that was pre-COVID, right? And then all of a sudden, this big bump in the road happens, and now these operators are kind of out there saying, what do we do now? And a lot of them, like you said, obviously the business acumen had to be there, but they had to rely on you for specific support and advice on how to move forward and what the challenges each individual franchise was facing, because they're in different states, the requirements were different. Suddenly you had a whole team devoted, I would assume, to solving these challenges and helping your operators continue to succeed despite the crazy, out of left field pandemic that hit us all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really, when that hit, we made a conscious decision, number one, to not lay off anybody. We didn't furlough, we didn't lay off anybody at the corporate level, because again, being a fully franchised brand, this is a time when we have to support and we have to show a strong sense of support to our franchise owners. And then the other thing is we aligned on a mission to get every one of our restaurants to the other side of this in the best cash position possible. Because again, we are a somewhat large restaurant organization, but at the end of the day, being fully franchised, we're a network of small businesses.
Correct.
And so and small businesses were greatly affected when the pandemic hit. So as you mentioned, early on, it became about, okay, from our ops perspective, having multiple conversations a day with our franchise owners to really help them navigate that payroll protection plan portal. Because as you know, and anyone who had to deal with that, those rules changed every day, and how to do it, what to do, and that. So our ops team, literally, we got 97% of our system into that portal. And of that, 100% of those that got in got funded. And so we were real proud of that. So that was kind of early on in guiding our folks into that. And then from a brand perspective, it really became about how we support our franchise owners and how we allow them to serve the communities that they're in. So initially for us, it was, we paid all delivery fees. We offered free delivery. And as a brand, we paid those delivery fees for our franchise owners so they could start to generate some income and start to generate some momentum. And then it became, we had to deepen that relationship. We implemented a time-bound set of royalty deferrals and abatements to ensure that, again, they get to the other side of this pandemic in the best cash position possible. And then we also found out, it really became evident that a lot of the communities that we're in, it was hard to get bread. It was hard to get meat. As you guys remember, supply chains were really taxed during this time. So, we offered our ground beef. We sold our ground beef and it was delivered. The ground beef we use, whole potatoes. We baked our buns and we would package them up and send them out to folks. And folks could order those for delivery for a time being. Again, just trying to find more ways for our franchise owners to serve the communities that they were in. And again, as that stabilized and as things started to stabilize with that, then we started to kind of layer back in and get back to what our initial strategy was from an innovation perspective. So we launched a campfire promotion in August, which was initially supposed to go out in April. Again, pushed it back so we could help everybody get to kind of the other side of this and launch that campfire promotion. That was a great set of new news that we had pushed out and some great food innovation that hadn't really been there in a while. And saw great returns and saw some great traffic increases as we launched that promotion. So it was when you go from open dining rooms to closed dining rooms in one day, you have to rally pretty quickly. And you're focused on the here and now to stabilize it. And then as we got the here and now and we got stabilized and we got some momentum from a sales perspective, and then it became about, let's layer back in some strategy and let's layer back in some of the things that we had on our plan to win that we felt were going to continue to move the brand forward.
Tony, before I get into other questions, I want to ask Ted, let me ask you, or both of you really, with the new administration coming, you had mentioned PPP and other government relief. Do you see any more of that on the horizon? Do you have any inside information you could share with the audience?
Let you go, Ted.
I mean, I certainly don't have any inside information. I can definitively tell you that. One of the things that, I consistently have been reading for the last couple of weeks that I'm sure a number of other people have as well is there seems to be this thought that there will be a return to predictability in Washington come January, because this is going to be a little bit more of a known entity, right? You're going to have a split in all likelihood, legislative versus executive branch, and they're going to have to work together in order to get something done. And so I think my hope is, I will tell you what my hope is. My hope is that Congress will come together and focus on two areas. One, additional support for small business, because as Tony said, we all know small businesses have been hurt the most during this time period. Not that others haven't been hurt, but really disproportionately affected small businesses. And two, clearly, we need as a country to move forward on both the vaccine and therapeutics. And that's got to be a parallel path. The sooner we can get the majority of people vaccinated, the sooner that we have therapeutics that are widely available for distribution in order to take care of those who do get sick, the sooner the world gets back to some semblance of normality. So that's my hope, is that those become the two key focus points.
I appreciate that answer. Let me ask you, Ted, also about staff staff recruiting first, and then training philosophies and how you maintain consistency, because that came up earlier. Tony mentioned something about the importance of consistency, and that certainly is at the very foundation of your brand, the people that you hire and how you develop them, how your franchisees develop them to maintain that consistency of service and create that image, that aura around the brand that invites people back and makes them feel like, hey, I had a great time here, and it wasn't just about the great food, it was about the service I received. What are your philosophies, and is there any special training that you impart to the franchisees? Because that is one of the most important details of the thousands of details of running a restaurant.
Was that for me or Tony?
Either of you.
Well, let me tell you our perspective.
Or both of you.
And I will tell you that the Mooyah team has done a really great job of setting us up for success in this area. So really pleased at what they've done as a brand. I think that you're right. There's two different questions that you have to ask when hiring in the hospitality industry. First and foremost is, does the person have a heart for service? As Tony was alluding to earlier, you can't take someone who fundamentally dislikes people or who fundamentally feels like the world owes them something and put them in front of it in a guest-facing business and expect good results. So as we're hiring for our first Mooyah location, literally right now, we're doing that. The number one thing we're trying to get to in all of our interviews is, do they like people, and do they see themselves as someone who can provide service to others? Really, from that point, then it becomes question number two, are they coachable? Is this someone who will take feedback, who will learn, and who will put that into place? A lot of people will listen. Not everybody will listen and then do something with that. As you talk about consistency and you talk about execution, to me, it really comes down to those two factors, because there are certain things that are non-negotiable. How you bake the bread, how you cook the hamburger, how you make the milkshake. There's a procedure and a recipe that must be followed to ensure that that is a consistent experience, every single guest, every single Mooyah location across the country. And so you have to be coachable in order to be able to develop those skill sets. The art side, less the science side, is how do I interact with people? And that gets down to their personality, their servant heart. And that's where we as a franchisee and as a business talk about the unselfish concern for the welfare of others. That's really who we are and what we're about. That's why we chose the name Agape Management Company, because that's what we want to impart back to the communities in which we operate. And that's the employees that work with us. That's the guests that come in the door. And again, that's the community in which we were fortunate enough to have a location.
Excellent. That also segues into my next question. Let's talk about some of the community give back fundraising activities that the company participates in. And if you could sort of explain those things and what the end results are. And it's obviously a win-win for everyone, but if you could explain that, I'd be really interested. And I think the audience would as well.
Yeah, we have a really robust fundraising platform, and really it's our local store marketing team, which we think again is a differentiating point for us. But our local store marketing team works directly with our franchise owners to curate a personalized plan for that specific trade area, and a big part of that is partnering with local organizations, schools, churches, things like that, and using Muya as kind of the vehicle for those fundraisers. So again, people come in, and again, it helps the franchise owner because it gets folks into the building, but at the same point, you're really there to help certain organizations within your community. So that is a big piece that, when we're talking to folks that potentially want to be new franchise owners with us, that's something we talk about a lot, and that really endears Muya to people and draws them in. And the cool thing that the team did, we challenged them pre-pandemic, and it really brought this to a forefront in the pandemic. But they've been able to execute digital fundraisers as well throughout this pandemic with closed dining rooms and things like that. The team figured out a way to still do fundraisers, but do them virtually or do them digitally. So when the people will order off premise and be able to apply some of those funds to the organization. So I was real proud of the brand team and how they were able to launch that, because that wasn't something that we were planning on for 2020. That was something that was down the road in 2021. But really proud of how they did that.
That is awesome. It is definitely about giving back and not just about creating a powerful brand that, serves a great product and makes a lot of money. It's really about giving back to the community that serves and supports each individual franchise. So I think that's great. Let's shift gears to finance a little bit. So you mentioned strong business acumen, of course, with your franchise operators themselves. And obviously, they need to have a certain understanding of the critical finances affecting the restaurant, prime cost, that sort of thing. You can control that to a certain extent with your buying leverage, but they still have to manage waste, theft, spoilage, all those things. They still have to manage their labor and controls. You must have certain benchmarks that you coach them on, and they have to report to on a weekly basis. Is all that true? Am I missing anything?
Absolutely. That is at the very core of our support level for our franchise owners. I mean, we look at the business on a weekly and monthly basis with them. We obviously report out on metrics weekly that we review across the entire company, but on a monthly basis, our franchise operations managers work directly with our franchise partners and review their P&L and go through the P&L, because to your point, we feel like we have a good model from prime costs all the way down through the EBITDA line. And so our franchise ops folks are very actively working with folks to understand where they're losing money or where they might be under levered from a financial perspective. And a big part of that is in prime costs. I mean, we know exactly what our theoretical food cost should be, and we know what a good variance to that is. And anything that's over that, we're digging in. And we're digging in to try to help find where those dollars are. Same thing from a labor perspective. Part of being successful in the industry is having a good labor model, and you can cut too deep, which is going to drive poor service, which is something that we look out for as well. But then you could be overspending from a labor perspective, and so we have kind of ideal hours based upon volume that our franchise ops managers really get involved with. And try to work with our franchise owners to create a plan to drive that forward. Now, that being said, below those lines, below that gross profit line on the P&L, certainly, when you talk about things like occupancy and utilities and things like that, we understand based upon the square footage of restaurants what are good parameters for those, and so we're able to help in that. And even before they open the restaurant, when you think about the occupancy, we maintain a very high level of transparency with our owners in terms of what sort of deals that they're looking at and signing up for, to ensure that you don't get to a point where, all of a sudden the box economics don't work. And if you don't do this certain amount of volume, that restaurant's not going to make it. So we partner with them to make very smart decisions early on, from a deal perspective. And then once they open, really it becomes about prime costs and what's going on within the four walls.
Okay, very good. Ted, may I ask you to speak to your marketing plan and your overall marketing strategy and what marketing support you provide to the individual locations, what their individual responsibilities or their individual marketing ideas, where that fits in, or if they have to stick to a pretty structured marketing plan and Take us there.
Yeah, again, I'm going to say that Muya does a really great job supporting this. We walked through a marketing plan just yesterday for our first location in Frisco that the brand team has been integral in helping us think through. It is a multifaceted approach at this point in time because we are one location, and Muya as a brand is still underpenetrated really within the market. You have to be nimble and you have to be, smart with your money. And so we look at things from, we're heavy on digital. So we're looking at targeted mobile ads. We're looking at social media and things of that nature. We're looking at, apps like Nextdoor, right? That's, really where people are starting to communicate much more about what's going on. So how do we integrate into where people are spending their time to get recommendations about everything from a plumber to a house cleaner to where am I going to go eat tonight? We are certainly taking a look at direct mail and using that as kind of a mass communication medium in order to get our name in front of as many people as possible. We are looking at partnerships. We talked earlier about the community involvement piece and the churches, the schools, the soccer clubs, things of that nature. And, establishing a partnership with those kinds of groups is a great way to get the community to know that you are there. And then you've got, just some of the old fashioned stuff like putting up signs that say, hey, grand opening coming on December 7th. And you put yard signs going down the highway that says turn right to get to Muya, right? Those kinds of activities, while less prevalent nowadays, they still work, right? In terms of drawing attention to your space and getting people to recognize, oh, there's something over there. I want to go see what that is. So I would say right now it's a fairly wide-ranging strategy. Clearly focused more on the digital world because that's really where people are interacting.
Would you say the operators have a certain autonomy to use, corporate supplied marketing materials and websites and that sort of thing, and then they can do their own grassroots efforts in their local communities? How much flexibility is there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way we're structured is here's the tools and resources that are available to you, and then the general manager, the local operator who knows that community, is really the one that's got to make the recommendations and say, you know what, there's 10,000 apartments within 5 miles of my location. So a targeted mobile ad to those apartments is going to be a great draw, as opposed to I have a huge soccer field that's right across the street from me. And I need to get those people because I've got 2,000, families coming through there every single weekend.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the staff piece. We already talked about the training philosophies and that sort of thing, but recognition and rewards are really what keep the brand moving forward, keep the longevity, lower the turnover, that sort of thing, and make people feel like they're part of something special. They want to stay with the company. They want to grow with the company. So talk about recognition and rewards or incentives or how that works maybe in the individual stores. And then let's talk about upward mobility and how people can rise to become management in those locations and even go beyond that.
Yeah, I appreciate you for bringing that up because I think there's a long-standing, this is my opinion, there's a long-standing misunderstanding fundamentally of what it means to truly incent and reward your employees. And for many years, it was, I'm going to give them a pen, or I'm going to give them a $5 gift card, or, some little tchotchke that, makes you feel good as an employer. But at the end of the day, well, the employee may gravitate towards that for a moment. They're going to walk away from it pretty quickly. Really, for us, recognition comes down to how we recognize that person as an individual for the contributions they've made, making them feel like they're an important part of the team and helping them grow and develop and achieve their goals. And I really can't overstate that enough. Everyone that comes through your restaurant has things that they want to accomplish in their life, right? From the 17-year-old who is just trying to earn a couple of bucks before they go off to college, right. The college student who maybe is trying to pay for their way through, the young parent who's got a second income, right? Everybody comes from a different place. understanding what their needs are and what their goals are, and then meeting them where they are and helping them accomplish their goals is the best recognition you can ever give to your employees. I sat down yesterday with 3 managers that we just hired to help us, and the conversation for each one of them started with, tell me what you want to get out of this experience. And they each had a different thing that they were looking for, which is great because now my team and I can go back and work with each of them to help them grow and develop and see where they want to be. And yeah, one of them absolutely was, hey, I want to take on more responsibility. And I know you guys are going to get bigger and I want to grow and I want to be a multi-unit person someday. Great. That's good to know. We can help you get there as we continue to grow and we're successful. But for others, it may be something completely different. And rather than giving them a pin or giving them $5, I'd much rather help them develop and grow and get where they want to be.
Excellent. Let's talk about locations. Is it easier now to find locations with the sort of fallout in the industry where suddenly locations are for lease on every street corner? Or how do you find the best locations? Because obviously the upper echelon of this business in the franchise world control the strongest real estate, and that is a critically important piece of what you're doing. So what's your philosophy on helping these operators find the best locations, and what's the availability, or is it scarce? I mean, tell us about that.
I'll tell you about my experience real quick, and then I'll let Tony kind of talk about it from a brand perspective.
Okay.
We're focused here in the Dallas-Fort Worth marketplace, and what we've seen is that there is more availability. What's interesting is that the landlords don't recognize yet what's been going on in the world. They still think it's 2019 and they should be getting 5% more than they did last year because that's real estate just continuously goes up. That's been a critical piece to us as we've been negotiating for sites, is finding a landlord who understands that the world has changed. And, we're not asking you to discount your property by 50% because that wouldn't be fair to them. But what we are asking is, are you going to be a good partner with us? As we're going through these low occupancy, low capacity time periods, are you going to be willing to be flexible with your rent structure, whether that's percentage rent or, monthly ramp ups or whatever the case may happen to be? And then you'll get your money, as things return more to normal, because if we fail as an operator, it hurts your property. Those are the kinds of things that are critical to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I would just echo Ted's sentiments on this. The world has certainly changed, but landlords' mindsets are not there quite yet. And while there certainly is more availability out there, I think the key is, as Ted mentions, when we go through what we're going through from this pandemic, it's about partnerships, right? This is not just a restaurant industry. This is society that is really hurting and struggling right now. And so it's really about partnerships and partnering, and not trying to get over on anybody, but certainly partnering. And when you partner together, as things get better, everybody wins. And so I think that's the sort of level of partnership that we're looking for. But from a real estate perspective, in terms of how we support our folks, number one, we invested in a technology called SiteZeus a little over 12 months ago. And so that's given us kind of an initial glimpse of how we feel, a Muya would do in this location. And we're obviously partnered with brokers on the ground in the different markets we serve, and don't believe, certainly you have technology, you have brokers, and then we also feel that, us as a brand that, for all intents and purposes, you got to go stand on the dirt. And really see it with your eyes as well. So we really use a multi-tiered approach in terms of how we support them and try to find the best sites for our owners.
Camp out, count cars, get market patterns, do market research in that neighborhood, find out what's going on, and see what the competition is doing. I mean, all those things have been done right for the longest time, and there's some validity to it.
Yep, absolutely.
I've got 2 final questions for both of you. first of all, why don't you each, in your own way and in your own words, give the independent operator out there listening to this podcast, it might be a single location mom and pop, it might be a 10 location small regional chain, operators, general managers. What is your best advice to operators today to not only survive this thing, but like I said, come out the other side as a stronger company?
I'll go first. In the restaurant industry, there is no substitute for delivering a great guest and employee experience. There's no substitute. So from that regard, what I would tell anybody is be the best operator on your block. And Ted's probably heard that saying as well, but be the best operator on your block. You could have the fanciest marketing, you could have the very best burger or steak or sandwich or whatever the case, and somebody might come in one time to try that.
Right.
But you know what? If you don't deliver a great experience in an environment that's clean and safe for your guests and your employees, and have some hot and wrap that around great hospitality, folks aren't going to be back. And I've learned that year after year after year after year. Be the best operator on your block. Have a great product, but execute that product better than anyone else on your street.
Great advice.
Yeah, I concur with that completely, obviously. So I'm going to go a slightly different way. What I would suggest to the independent operator at this point in time in these challenging times is don't try and do everything by yourself, right? As restaurant operators, a lot of times we just take it all on and say, okay, we're going to fight through this and we're going to figure out a way to get it done. Know what your weaknesses are and find resources to help you. And that can come in a number of different ways, right? That could be your landlord. That you're struggling and you don't want to admit you're struggling. But you know what? It's okay to go to the landlord and say, hey, I need some help to get through this. If you're not as strong on the financial side, maybe as you are on the operations side, find a trusted business partner or accountant who can help you figure out how to cut 200 or 300 basis points out of your costs right now, because that may be the difference in getting you where you need to be. If you're working with a small local bank, your banker really wants to help you. They want you to be successful. So, recognize where your weaknesses are and then find some trusted advisors that you can partner with to help you get through these difficult times.
That's what I call putting a dream team together. Anyone else out there, whether it's your staff, whether it's your accountant, your CPA, your lawyer, anyone out there, your community partners that you so eloquently mentioned, it's like all these people are part of the team that do good for the community and do good for the business. Thank you for that answer. All right. Finally, you have sort of a forum. If there's anything, we covered a lot of ground today. I asked you a lot of key questions about what operators were interested in, but this is kind of a forum for you to either tell us anything that you think we didn't hit on Muya, or there's a lot of operators out there or chefs out there that have been out of work that might think about they're looking for a new opportunity. Maybe they want to cash in their 401k, whatever it is. This could be your chance to reach them with this opportunity if it's for them. Who knows? You can tell us anything you'd like.
I would just tell you that we are at the base of the mountain in terms of where Muya can be. It's a differentiating product. We have a differentiating leadership team, and we're bringing on differentiating franchise partners that we believe are best in class. And I would just say that that this is one of those opportunities and one of those brands that really is primed for growth, and it's not propped up by anything other than the fact that it's a great product and there's great people behind it, and we have great franchise owners that are involved, and we work tirelessly as a leadership team to really ensure that we're looking at the business from all sides of the cup and ensure that we're doing things the right way for the long-term health of the business.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tony, for that answer. Ted, what do you have to say?
I think that I'll speak as a new franchisee to Muya and say that what attracted us to the brand, as Tony said earlier, right? I was a consumer before I was a franchisee.
A raving fan.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely loved the food. Yep. But what we've seen from Muya's team, and this is really critical to us, is a commitment to the franchise owners. And he's talked about that, whether that's figuring out how to get prime costs down, development of the app, which really makes it more convenient and easier for the customer to use it, support that they put in place. Those things are really critical to your long-term success. As we were going through the process of talking with Tony and team about doing this, one of the things that we kept coming back to occasionally was, hey, this is all great, but what happens, if? And you've got to unfortunately plan for those downsides. We know that we're working with a great team of people and that they're going to do everything that they can and everything within their power to make sure that their franchise owners are successful. And we're just really excited to help them make the brand stronger and to get Mooyah to the place where, quite frankly, it deserves to be, which is one of the leading better burger chains in America.
Awesome. Well, I certainly appreciate both of you joining us on the podcast. You've been a wealth of information, a wealth of experience and knowledge, and you've got us all excited about Mooyah. So I hope this leads to lots of our listeners heading out there and checking it out for themselves. So that was the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Ted. And we will see you in the next episode. Stay tuned. I'm really hungry now, and I'll bet you are too. I bet you want to run right out and grab a Mooyah burger. Well, unfortunately, I can't get one because there is yet to be a Mooyah in Maine, but when it comes, I'll be sure to go. Right now, I'd have to travel to Massachusetts or New Hampshire to get a Mooyah burger. But what a great episode. Two great guys really rocking and rolling this industry, and that's really what this is all about. I hope you got as many learnings and key nuggets of really powerful operational information that I did. So thanks for listening. Listen, please leave us a review on iTunes. If you like what you're hearing, it would be really helpful to get other owners, managers, hotel operators, and etc., anyone in the hospitality business to listen to the podcast. And our goal, of course, is just to help move this industry forward, give you all the information that is easily actionable, give you food for thought, and really transform your business. That's what we're all about here. So once again, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.